So, y'all, I sit in reflection a lot, in retrospect often. And one thing that came to me today while sitting in silence is like a lot of times in our community, we don't express love or emotional intelligence with our children. And that in turn breeds emotionally unavailable children. And they grow to be emotionally unavailable women and men. And that in turn turns out to emotionally unavailable people trying to have relationships and they can't get it right. They just don't know they can't figure it out. And if I can't give y'all no other advice, I'll tell y'all this. Telling your babies I love you matters. Showing them that you love them matters. Less, like, I'm not going to say less discipline, but just as much discipline needs to be as much love. Because if you discipline, and you never show them love, they grow up to wonder, like, did I ever do anything right? Am I good enough? Why wasn't I good enough? Why did my mom or my dad always see my wrongs and never my good? Like, they grow up with self-esteem issues. They grow up with triggers and traumas. And I think my era, my generation, and the generations before me are a product of those types of households and parents. I can speak for me. I didn't hear I love you almost at all growing up. I didn't hear my mom say I love you often at all. Most of the time she showed she loved me by surviving, if that makes sense. Like, most of my childhood, my mom was in survival mode. And she did not plan it that way. She had married my father early on. She she had her life planned out like how she wanted it, and she was on the path of doing that. Things went off course and she ended up being a single mother and raising her children to the best of her ability. And in doing that, she lacked some things, and that was the emotional support, telling us she loved us, validating us at home, telling us we're beautiful, that we're smart, that we can do whatever we put our minds to, that we are enough. We never heard that growing up. And that in turn bred trauma. And those traumas bleed into our relationships today, our relationships with our partners and our relationships with our children. And I'm speaking for myself and my sister when I say our. We both turned out completely different day and night. However, our traumas are still similar. They just show up in our lives in different ways. And because of those things, we parent our children in a different manner. Um, as a woman trying to raise emotionally available children, in the beginning stages of parenthood, for me it was hard, but I had to force myself up out of that. And even some days now, like, my kids, they'll come to hug on me and I'll kind of like withdraw a little bit, but then I have to remind myself, even when I'm uncomfortable, I still owe them enough. I owe them that. I owe them a hug. I owe them love. I brought them here. It's my job to raise them to be emotionally intelligent, emotionally available. I don't want, I've dealt with emotionally unavailable men, and I don't want that for my son. I don't want my daughters to have to deal with emotionally unavailable men, and I don't want a man to have to deal with an emotionally unavailable woman that are a product of me, because that means I dropped the ball somewhere in my parenting or at the forefront of their of their developmental phases, to where they lack certain emotional characteristics and traits. And I don't want that for them. I don't want them to have that kind of trauma. If I can, men, love on your sons. Love on those boys. Yeah, they might not do this right and they might not do that right, but they still need to hear you tell them that you love them, that you appreciate them, that they do mean everything to you. Because discipline, and no love, like, that baby is gonna be so confused. He's gonna wonder, why is he not good enough? Why can't it seem like he can't do anything right? Like, y'all, just love on them babies. Tell them you love them. Hug them, kiss them. Go take them to dinner. Take them to lunch. Like, spend time with them. Learn what their likes and their dislikes are. Learn what their favorite colors are. Favorite teams. Like, have in-depth conversation. What you want to be. Like, what you want to do it. Like, what are your plans? What would you like to do? Like, y'all, I don't know. I just, this is one of our biggest downfalls in the black community. And now you got men against women trying to figure out who suffered more at the hands of the other or the expense of the other. When in all actuality, we have suffered since birth a lot of times because we didn't have the proper emotional support as children. And that bleeds into how we manage through relationships. So now you got trauma trying to love on trauma and nobody's healing. Or one person's healing and the other person isn't. So one person recognizes where they're going wrong, but the other person can't. And so now you're stagnant. And now you can't have successful relationships because somebody's emotionally unintelligent. Y'all, it goes deep. Love on them babies. Kiss on your babies. Not just because they're your babies, but because they're your babies. Like, y'all, tell them Churn you love them.